Right. Namaste, everyone, and welcome to the year-end fundraising event of FIDS, Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Studies. It's a very quintessential think tank organization, the need of the hour for India and Indian diaspora. So we do a lot of things, which includes keeping a watch over and do the analysis. G. So we do a lot of things, including keeping a watch over and do the analysis of the laws passed, reports submitted to the government, serious events that are happening that pertains to the India and Indian diaspora, such as the immigration issues, violence in Bangladesh, Manipur, threats to Indians in USA, Indo-US trade, security, terrorism, and so on and so forth. There are several topics that we cover. So please sit through the whole event and help us in our effort to strengthen our community and their well-being. So the way the program is going to run is we'll have a 1 minute introduction video that tells us, you all about what FIDS is about. And then we'll have a panel discussion with Kapilji, Khanderaoji, and Bharatji. And then we'll have the FIDS reporting will be given by Khanderaoji. And then we'll have some of the analysts who are going to talk about the work that they have done and what we did in FIDS. And then we'll have a closing comments and pitch for the fundraiser. So we'll start with the video.
Voice is not coming.
You need to share the voice separately, Prasadji, I think. No, there's a separate button for share voice. I think share screen has a share audio.
Prasadji, you can stop sharing and share again with the button that says share with audio. You will have that option while you share your screen.
You see the option?
I think let's
I can try to share otherwise.
Yeah, you share it.
Gee. Right.
As a USA-based non-profit organization, Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Studies, FIDS' mission is to engage the Indian diaspora in the United States to further strengthen collaboration in geopolitical security, economic policies, education, science and technology, and people-to-people engagement. We focus on building strong US-India relations on related policy matters. FIDS is an institute for research, analysis, awareness and advocacy on events, issues and matters related to India and Indian diaspora. FIDS monitors, builds and events to analyze the impact on Indo-Americans and to come up with strategic responses to address narratives. FIDS also keep a watch on international human rights violations, hate crimes and acts of terrorism.
All right. So we move with the next item is we're going to have Kapilji Sharma who is going to talk to us in this panel discussion, and he's going to focus on overall shift in policies from Biden to Trump administration. So just a brief parichay of Kapilji. Mr. Kapil Sharma ji held several government affairs roles, including Senior Director of ABB, Vice President for Government and Public Affairs of Wipro Limited, Senior General Manager for Tata Sons North America, and Legislative Counsel at Werner, Limford, Bernard McPherson, and Hand. He also has experience on Capitol Hill, coming from the offices of Senator Robert Torricelli and Congressman Frank Pallone. He has actively engaged and represented numerous industry groups on international trade, foreign direct investment to the United States, and policies related to economic growth and job creation. So, Kapilji, please, you have 5 to 7 minutes. Please talk on.
Thank you, Mohan. And I'll keep my remarks rather brief and prefer to answer questions that way. But I will discuss, at least generally speaking, what I see will be major issues or transitions coming from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. One of the things I want to say right off the bat, and I had spoken to this before to FIDS, which I believe the Biden administration probably was one of the best administrations when it comes to India for the bilateral relationship. And the reason why I put it that way is that I thought the political leadership of the Biden administration, whether it comes from the White House, State Department, Defense Department, the political appointees were very supportive of a strong India. And, granted, it was because of concerns about China, but they did try to work with India. And they did try to give India what it needed in order for it to grow economically and to create strong defense. It didn't start out that way, I have to admit, with the Biden administration. There were challenges around the Ukraine conflict, where India's position was. There was a lot of tension around Afghanistan, which, boy, you think about the withdrawal of Afghanistan, it wasn't that long ago. It seems like it was forever, but it was really about 2.5 years ago. But that caused a lot of tension in the bilateral because the Biden administration did not tell India that it was going to be withdrawing at that time, which caused a lot of instability on the Indian border. And then you had some concerns around energy policy. But after the Modi visit, the famous Modi visit last year, I think that the relationship has been going on a trajectory that's been amazing. And that joint statement between Modi and Biden really has set the path. The bureaucracy within, I think, the Biden administration was far more critical. So that's why I wanted to say that the politicals within the Biden administration were very good. But the bureaucrats, people who are working full time, who have been in, let's say, State Department for 10, 15 years, tend to be a little bit more critical of India, mainly on human rights issues, media, Hindu nationalism, Hindu fundamentalism. And in fact, I would even say huge disagreement on how India worked with Bangladesh, which I think initially people in the State Department and U.S. Congress were very happy about. I call it a coup. I don't know what to call it these days, but they were very happy about it because they thought this was going to bring a new democracy to South Asia. But I think they have come to eat their words now. The Trump administration and actually, it's very interesting. Also, the Biden administration initiated IMEC as well, which I think is a very, very powerful trade relationship that they're trying to establish that will help India and it will help integrate India's economy into the Gulf, Middle East, and into Europe. And they continue to be champions on that front. Coming to the Trump administration, I really do feel, and this is where I think you as an organization may want to think about this. I don't know much more we can do right now. There has been so much that's been put on the table between the United States and India. And what we have a tendency to do is we like to create things. We like to have a lot of engagements. We like to have a lot of pronouncements. But we have to hold both countries accountable to following through on whatever they have signed or whatever agreements that they've done. And we have to ensure that Congress or the parliament, or whoever may be in power, that they follow through and they actually execute all of these policy agreements. So if you think about the Biden-Modi joint statement, there were 52 points that they agreed on. 52. I would give anybody here $500 if you could tell me out of the 52 how many they fully successfully executed. I think the number would probably shock you and surprise you. So that's the work that's cut out for us with the Trump administration. How do we hold the Trump administration to ensure that they keep those 52 policy statements that were signed by Biden and Modi, keep them going? Because the Indians did want those, right? They negotiated it, they worked it out. These are things that they want. Tariffs by the Trump administration is going to complicate some things, but I can promise you and assure you the Indians are working hard to respond to whatever tariff policies that are going to come forward. And quite frankly, I think from a negotiation perspective, India is in a strong position to be able to work with the Trump administration on this. I think one contentious area that I don't know how this is going to get worked out will definitely be on immigration around H-1Bs. I don't know if how many of you saw today the Biden administration announced a new H-1B policy. It tends to be a little bit looser in the definition of specialty occupation, which is good for Indian-based companies. But I suspect that when the Trump administration comes into power, they're going to reverse every immigration policy that the Biden administration has done, which could have an impact on our community here. I also think from a defense perspective, a lot of people don't realize this. The Biden administration had followed what the Trump administration had started. I think that's going to go great. I think they're going to continue to do that. Um, you know, the Trump administration is going to be a transactional organization. You do something for me, we'll do something for you. That actually works well for the Indians. That's how they like to operate as well, especially with the United States. So I see that I don't think that you're going to see too much deviation in the relationship. I think tariffs will be a sticking point. I think immigration will be a sticking point, but I think generally speaking on a lot of other things, they're going to work well. They're going to continue to strengthen. I also actually, now that as I say it out loud, one of the key issues that I've been talking to both U.S. and Indian leaders, which is critical for India's growth. India is poised to, I think, very quickly will pass Japan in terms of economy. But I do fear that you're going to hit a critical point for India's economic growth, and that's because of jobs. And if India cannot figure out how to create jobs, its economy will struggle to grow. And this is something where they can work with the United States. And also stop attacking U.S. companies that are investing money in India, trying to grow jobs. That has been one of the major points that I know U.S. companies are complaining about, and they're going to be complaining to the Trump administration that the government of India keeps going after U.S. companies, and this will be part of the whole tariffs and other types of negotiations. Lastly, I should add, and I think if all of you are very nerdy about these things, almost all of the foreign policy appointees that Trump has announced are very strong on India. You cannot ask actually for a better group of people, except for the trade person. You couldn't ask for a better group of people for India. Waltz is a co-chair of the India caucus. He's a national security advisor. Rubio has been pushing legislation on India, which has been very good. And he's going to be Secretary of State. Your EPA and Department of Energy heads are very pro. This is good for India, very pro on coal, and want to see India use coal in a very clean way and are going to try to help India do that. So whereas India has already announced that it wants to use coal in order to meet its energy needs, the US can be supportive and will be supportive on that, but will help them do it in a clean way. So there's a lot of really good, I think, opportunities. There's still a lot of gray areas. I'm not sure about Capitol Hill. I don't think Capitol Hill will be anti-India, but I think that there are going to be elements on Capitol Hill that will continue to put pressure on India, whether it's on what they perceive as human rights violations. The Khalistan issue will not go away, by the way, I should add. Regardless, it's not going to go away because you have the court case happening in New York, which will force members of Congress to address. And I think that that can become a sticking issue as well. You might see Khalistan actually pop up a little bit more in conversation in this next Congress. So that's a very brief 30,000 foot overview of where I see things are going, and happy to answer any questions people may have.
Yeah, Dhanyavad Kapilji. I think we'll just have all the three panelists present the views first, and then we'll take the questions in the end. So next, we're going to have Khanderao Khan. He's going to focus on policies related to the India and Indian diaspora. Mr. Khanderao Khan is the president and policy director of FIDS. He has been a convener of various conferences on topics like Indo-China relations and peace and prosperity in Afghanistan. At FIDS, Mr. Khan had led research on topics like the impact of illegal migration from Bangladesh to India, the ethnic cleansing of Yazidis in Iraq, and Indo-American youth in the US. So Khan is a pioneer and a technologist based in Silicon Valley. He's also the founder of Global Indian Technology Professionals Association, GitPro, a global networking platform for technology professionals. So Khanderao, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mohanji. So, Caps, a wonderful recap on all the shift that you're seeing. And I was just mentioning to others that before the election, we had a panel on the whole policies of both and what we can see, etc. And you had rightly predicted that time, at least the presidential outcome. And it was taught on the spot. Congress, of course, you had predicted differently, but good to see that. As we see that you captured very well, the Biden administration, particularly President Biden, had been very centrist, and then he carried forward Trump's South Asia shift and more on the pro-India. And even after the Ukraine war, initially there was some ruffle and all that thing, but later on you can see that they sidelined when it comes to Ukraine war. India, they did not really bothered much or made a big issue out of the India stand. But in the later phase, even banked on whether India can actually play a role. But most importantly, Indo-Pacific, role of India in Indo-Pacific region has been a very focus. That's one. And ISET, the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technology, which is a very paradigm shift, multilateral, multidimensional relationship between US and India. And so those are the relationship, and that historic visit of Prime Minister Modi ji and the grand welcome that he had given in Washington, and particularly in White House, that was unparalleled. So definitely he himself invested a lot, but in all, Indian diaspora during the election actually played a very important role. Indian diaspora is almost 5 million, and lot of Indian Americans are actually in the swing state and in the critical mass. So there had been a huge participation. Of course, the diaspora has been much divided, and you can see that the demographic kind of division, etc. Those who are aware about international politics and issues, they were kind of concerned in the later phase of the Biden administration, particularly last 6 months, when it comes to the Democrats introducing some of the policies related to, say, just before 4 days before the Prime Minister Modi ji came, there was a bill that Adam Schiff had, I think, introduced around the genocide of 1984. Earlier, there was a national repression related bills, etc., etc. But by and large, it has been a very, when it comes to international affairs, had been very positive. What we are seeing, as you very well said, that the appointees that particularly when it comes to the State Department, National Intelligence Director, or even the FBI, and so all these appointments are pro-India. So Mike whether it's a Senator Rubio or Mike Walls, of course, Tulsi Gabbard. So all this definitely Indian Americans are very excited to see that there could be a very paradigm shift when it comes to the policies. But while all this said, that there are a lot of this positive aspect I'm expecting. One is that U.S.-India relations will be on the stronger trajectory, particularly on the security side of it, international security, Indo-Pacific region. When it comes to India's stand on the Ukraine war, I think there is some commonality between President Trump's thoughts and at least anticipated policies and India's positioning. So we may see some peace getting brokered in that particular region. We would also see that when it comes to terrorism, strong anti-terrorism related policies, uh, strong China policies, strong anti-war related policies. Definitely, these are the things that when it comes to US-India relations, they would be helpful. But when it comes to trade, President Trump already started talking about the trade and tariffs that if India actually imposes the tariffs, we will be doing the same or more. So that's one thing that is a sound and clear. Even when there was a BRICS meeting a couple of weeks back, President Trump actually mentioned that if there are attempts to weakening dollar, US will take a strong stand. And then immediately, India's external minister Jaishankar ji had to clarify that India does not have any interest in weakening the dollar. So it's very interesting that, as you said, that it's going to be a much more transactional. It is going to be pro America, of course, and then America first policies are going to be there. And most of these policies are actually good for Indo-Americans and for India. But when it comes to some of the other policies, we are going to see that we may need to do some kind of awareness and advocacy that is going to be around. If you see that USERF report, typically when it comes to India, there are few glaring issues that they try to project and wrongly out of the proportion light of it. One of them is that the foreign funding policies, particularly to the charity organizations who are engaged into some tribal activities, and particularly the laws related to additional law is anti-conversion law. So user project that anti-conversion law is actually anti-freedom of religion related, which is a very wrong projection. But that really is going to be at least particularly evangelical who may have some influence into the Trump administration. We may see some noise around that issue when it comes to that. It would not be as the noise around the human rights, particularly for Kashmir or etc., which Democrats used to make a lot of noise around that. It would not be that, but it would be the around anti-convergence. So that one thing that definitely would come, and then we may need to engage into the awareness between the facts and the fiction or the propaganda. Immigration policies, definitely we are a little bit concerned that as we know that the previous Trump one immigration czar, Stephen Miller, he is actually deputy chief of staff, and he was totally anti-immigration. He did not differentiate documented and undocumented immigration. That is actually had caused during even that time some restriction around the H-1B, and we may see the similar, at least the stand. The positive aspect of that, in the month of June, President Trump actually had said that EAD for college graduates. So something very paradigm shift policy he mentioned. If he carries forward, it is going to be positive for yeah, Indian who are on H1B or other get educated over here. We'll have to continue to work on the green card backlog because currently that is another issue that, and then third issue that is popping up right now is that the birthright citizenship, and that is something that where do the draw the line? Is it they draw the line whether the documented that let's say H1B, etc., they can have the birthright citizenship or not, or it is only for illegal immigrant that restriction. So that is something is going to be concerning. So we may need to be aware about that, get engaged into those policies, and see how we can create the education about the positive impact of immigrants, particularly the tech immigrants and legal immigrants, and how they are helping to become America competitive, strong, and prosperous. So those are the things we may need to get engaged. I think that's what I see is that yes, there are certain things definitely going to be good when it comes to U.S.-India relations, but a lot of things needs to be worked on, and it cannot be taken as a guaranteed. And that's where that it's very important for fields and organization to get engaged into the policy and advocacy, both at the capital hill as well as in think tanks, media, and across the country. Wherever we are engaged into the political activism, we need to be educating about this are the aspect, and which is going to be a continue work for FITS, and we'll be committed to that. Thank you.
Dhanyavad Khandarao-ji. So next we're going to have Dr. Bharat Barai-ji. He's going to talk his views about the Trump 2.0 with the focus on international impact and the global effects. So Dr. Bharat Barai-ji is currently a medical director of the Cancer Institute, Methodist Hospitals, clinical assistant professor of medicine at Indiana University Medical School, secretary and former president of the Medical Licensing Board of the state of Indiana since year 2000. He obtained his MD in medicine from University of Illinois, MD in medical oncology from Northwestern University of Medical School, and MD in hematology from Rush University Medical School. He has been the president of medical staff, chairman of the medical executive committee, and serves on the board of directors of the Methodist Hospitals. He also serves on the advisory board of the Indiana University School of Business. He also serves on the medical advisory panels for the US senators and congressmen. So Bharat Barai-ji, please go ahead.
You need to be unmuting Dr. Bharat Barai-ji. Dr. Bharat Barai-ji is one of the tallest Indo-American leader, and engaged into the political process in both in United States and in India, and has played very important role in last many decades in fostering a strong US-India relation. So,
Bharat-ji,
Thank you. Namaste.
47 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, you can hear me now?
yes.
Ji.
Yes.
So the effect of President Trump coming into second year or second time presidency is going to be significant. When he was president first time, he had characterized himself as a strong leader. And now with the larger mandate that he has received, just getting absolute majority, plus winning all the 7 states where there was a contentious issue, has given him a strong mandate, and most people all over the world have accepted that now he has come with a strong mandate. Second thing, he is a man of his conviction. He doesn't care about being politically right. If he feels that there is something that he needs to make the point, he will make the point. He is kind of either you are a friend or a foe or no interest, like what he said about Syria. Hey, let them settle it among themselves. They are not our friends. They are not our enemies. Let them settle it among themselves and we'll see. And of course, it will be a business-like approach. As one of the previous speakers pointed out, he will look at it, hey, if you impose duties on American products, I'm going to impose duties on your products, just like he has said for India. So that kind of business approach he is going to take, whether it's Canada, whether it is Mexico, whether it is India or Japan or Europe. So that is the general thing. Now, his policies will be divided, really speaking, more into economic effect and political effect. Somebody already talked about India. So if we talk about Europe, he has felt very strongly that the Europeans are not carrying their own burden as far as the NATO and defense is concerned. Last time he had insisted that the European countries, especially NATO members, must spend at least 2% of their GDP on their own defense. Because USA has been carrying out a lot of defense expense, stationing US troops, supplying them. Why the Europeans cannot take that? And I think he is going to insist that they must put at least 2% of their GDP for their own defense. When it comes to putting the duties, I think the Germans are already sensing that he is going to put the import duties or tariffs on German-made cars because they are unfairly benefiting. As far as Latin America is concerned, he has really not spoken much. Latin America has not been a hot point at any place. The only country where there has been a significant effect is Mexico, because he feels that under NAFTA, Mexico and Canada are getting undue advantage, pushing their products at the expense of American companies, American products, and American workers. Now, a lot of this might be a negotiating point, but it is also true that the Chinese, after the Chinese products were bought under tariff, have been pushing their products into Mexico more so, and then repacking it as if it is made in Mexico and push it across the border duty-free. This part of cheating has been well known, and I think Trump is going to crack down hard on this kind of cheating that is going on, sort of resurfacing in Mexico. As far as Russia is concerned, I think he has a little less hostile feeling about Russia than Biden administration. I don't know how he is going to take it to Putin and try to negotiate something, because Putin, remember, he is a KGB spy master. And even though he may not be as much hostile to Trump, it will be seen how much Trump is able to negotiate with him. I'm not sure that he is going to be able to stop the Ukraine war. In fact, the effect on Ukraine may be deleterious, A, not in terms of supplying weapons as much as Biden administration is supplying. B, he might reimpose the restrictions that the American missiles may not be used to attack Russia. And 3, he might try to force Ukraine into saying you accept the ceasefire and loss of territory, which Russia is already controlling. So those things are likely to occur. As far as Israel is concerned, I think he will be very strong pro-Israel. He is already strong pro-Israel. He does not have any feeling for the Palestinians or the Hezbollahs. So whatever Israel acts, he is not going to be able, is not going to criticize as much. Though he had also brought about Abraham Accords. You know what is interesting? Many of the doctors in our hospital who are of Middle East origin, and I know, when I talk to them, those Syrian doctors, they immediately say, it's good, Israel is finishing Hamas. They want Hamas and Hezbollah to be finished because they thought that these were kind of monsters that were not responsible to anyone. They used to say that most Middle East governments, including Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, United Emirates, Egypt, Morocco, they all wanted Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis to be finished because they thought that this was Iranian attempt to try to sort of put pressure on Middle East countries and become the leader of Middle East countries. And in that kind of endeavor, Iranians were using their money, their arms to instigate them. So they were very happy that only Israel had the capacity, will to try to destroy Hamas and Hezbollah. So, they have outside face where Saudi Arabia and Morocco and UAE will condemn Israel, but inside they are happy that these monsters are getting finished. So in Middle East, I think Iranians have been kind of dealt a severe blow by killing of a lot of the Hezbollah leaders. Now, Assad, many people have not realized that Assad regime was an apartheid regime. In Syria, the Alawite, who are a sect of Shias, were only about 12 to 15% of population, while the Sunni population was about 75%, and Christian population, which was 10%, now it has even gone down less than 10%. So the Sunnis were feeling that the Shias were ruling over them with help of Iran and Hezbollah. So they are very happy that this Shia regime is gone. And I think Turkey has been supporting these Sunni rebels. And United States is not going to be unhappy for more than one reason, that Assad regime is gone. Though they will not like to interfere, they will allow Israel to stay on the sideline except for defense. But let the Sunnis take care of the Shia regime in Syria. As far as Pacific part is concerned, he will not be as active, though he is the one who had promoted Quad more. Quad had started a time before that, but it was during the Trump era, Quad came more into focus. And it is part of his anti-China policy. So on one side, he will be very strong on China, but then he also invited President Xi to come over at his inauguration, which he has not accepted, except that he's going to send a delegation. So this China love and hate affair is going to be interesting. On one side, he does not want China to become economic superpower and certainly not military superpower. On the other hand, he wants to keep friendly relationship with China and contain China. So that will be interesting love and hate relationship with China, but certainly there will be economic consequences for China. As far as Africa is concerned, I don't think he's too much into Africa and he will get involved actively as far as Africa is concerned. Japan, he will keep the friendly ties, and so also Australia, he will keep the friendly ties. So I think his effect on different parts of the world will be different, both in economic terms as well as in the political terms. Kapil Sharma, you already talked about India, so I'm not going to speak about it. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, he was the first leader to speak out about the atrocities on Bangladeshi Hindus. And I think that one earned him a lot of votes. And I gave him kudos for that. And we will continue to work with his administration to try to speak out in favor of Bangladeshi Hindus. I think, in my opinion, Kamala Harris was already a loser, but the statement by President-elect Trump has definitely earned him a lot of Hindu votes. I was talking with somebody who is already doing the survey, let it come out. But according to him, almost 65% of Indian American votes went to Trump this time. And it's the youngsters who are hung up on abortion and those things. They voted for Trump, but a lot of adults, most of the adults, they voted for Trump. Trump was very smart to try to bring name of Narendra Modi, saying that Narendra Modi is his very good friend, because he realized that almost 80% of the NRIs are fans of Narendra Modi. And by bringing him and bringing up his friendship, it will be beneficial to him. In my opinion, almost 1 million Hindu votes shifted to Trump, and that may have added to his margin of victory. As far as Khalistan issue is concerned, as it was pointed out, there may be more noise, but I don't think he will try to bring it up. So that is my overall assessment of how his global impact will be, which will be different economic terms, political terms, and depending upon the what region of the world we are talking about. Thank you.
Dhanyavad, Bharat ji. So we'll just take a couple of questions. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. We'll just take 1 or 2 questions. I see that there were a lot of questions that were already, the people are chatting on the side window. So I think many of the questions were answered by Kapil ji also there. So if anyone wants to ask any question, we'll just take 1 or 2 questions.
I just want to make one point, which I thought this year I saw more than I've ever before, is with Indian Americans that were running for office that were defined, that said that they were Hindu Americans, and the language that their opponents used against them to try to really position them as foreigners, position them as being Modi supporters. You saw that quite a lot in Suhas's campaign. If you followed Suhas's campaign very closely, he won. but I was concerned about the language that they used, and they tried to use his ethnicity or his religion. Tulsi talks about it. I don't know if many of you have seen how some elements have gone after Tulsi Gabbard by calling her a Hindu American, referring to it as a cult to some extent. And so, as we get more politically active, I think it's incumbent on all of the leaders on the panel and others to really, we have to do an awareness campaign, we have to do an education campaign, but we also have to back our people when they get attacked for this. Whether we support their politics or not is one thing. But I think if they make baseless claims, they did this to Bobby. It seems like whenever an Bobby Jindal, I'm talking about, when an Indian American runs and they disagree with their politics, they try to paint them as foreigners. I can assure you, the big race will be Sri Thanandar when he runs in Detroit. He's in a district that's 90% African American. And I can promise you they will do this. They will try to smear him, not on his policies, but more on his ethnicity. So I think that's something that I saw in the last year, and my concern is that it will continue as more Indian Americans run.
I
I
echo that,
agree.
and you're right into that. I think we need to work on creating the awareness and then have the proper facts and also proper cover, because this is the strategy again and again comes. It was against Tulsi Gabbard when she was running for the president also. Even there were comments against Vivek Ramaswamy also. So that way, it is a pattern there.
Yeah.
You're right. Vivek being a good friend, and also Sri Thanadar, we told repeatedly Sri Thanadar that, look, your district is 90% African American. In fact, he joked one that the only Indian American in my constituency is my wife. So we told him that ultimately what's going to matter in your district is your services to your constituents. And it's remarkable that he won by 54.8% votes. First time when he won, there were 8 candidates and he got 28% votes and became the highest vote getter in primary and won. This time, he got 54.8% vote. So I think he has done a remarkable job with his constituents. And that is what's going to define us. You're right that Sua's same thing happened. But I think most of the people in USA are trying to judge you by what you do. But there is going to be a small section like this who are going to attack you based on race, ethnicity. It used to happen in my profession, medical profession. It still happens a little bit, but not as much as it used to be.
Dr. Barai,
So
if
we
you
just,
don't,
yeah,
Dr.
I
Barai,
think
just
we're
very
kind of
quickly.
running a
Oh,
little short on time. You want to say something?
well, I
quickly?
just want to say with the case on Sri Thanandar, why we should feel a little bit bad about that is that he got an infusion of money from the Jewish community, not the Indian community. He was able to win because the Jewish community came out and supported him. And the reason why he got 54% of the vote was that because the number one opponent to him was found ineligible. And so that helped him, but I can promise you his next race is going to be very difficult, and we shouldn't let the Jewish community bail him out. He is our community member. We should be bailing him out. That's at least my.
Kapilji, I'm
we're
not
just,
sure. I will talk to Sri
yeah,
about it, but
yeah,
actually, his
yeah,
cousin
Bharatji, I
made a
think,
his cousin made a comment
yeah,
that he was able to raise more money in Chicago than he was able to raise in Detroit. And we did 3 fundraisers for him in Chicago. I can assure you that
I
he
think
got
what
close
he
to.
is referring to that total Indian American funds versus the total Jewish American funds. That's all. Not in the Detroit versus Chicago or anything. I think it's right into that, but I think
I'll
we
talk
can
to Sri
discuss.
about it because I had taken him to a couple of Jewish functions. When the Jewish function had honored me, it was a large function, and I asked them that can I bring Sri Thanedar? This was before primary last year, and they said yes. And I introduced, they had a sort of honoring function for me with top Jewish donors also. And I introduced Sri to a lot of Jewish donors in Chicago, and I'm sure that they helped him. But my feeling is that we did more for him than Jewish
I think
Americans.
I think
you're right. This one.
we're running out of time. So Kandaraji, if we can just move ahead. Definitely.
I think
So I think this was a wonderful discussion. Definitely, like I had started off this program by saying all these points is the exact reason why FIDS plays such a very important role. It's a quintessential think tank organization, and this is the need of the hour for India and Indian diaspora. I think all the points mentioned by the panelists actually point to this on what we do. So with that in mind, I would request Khanderao to please go ahead and go in little more detail about the FIDS reporting and all the activities that we have done. And along the way, we'll have some of the analysts will come and they'll pitch in and they'll give a little more description about the activities that FIDS do.
okay, thank you. Let me see the slides that you are seeing. You're able to see the slides?
No, it says having trouble getting the pages.
Okay, okay. Then I need to stop and then share the. Okay. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Yes. I think you may have to go
But
into the slideshow.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a slideshow option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Able to see the slideshow option, this one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will be giving quick just overview of feeds and also some of the highlights from 2024 and some of the continuation of the programs you may say. FEEDS Foundation for India Indian Diaspora Studies, we focus on the policies related to US India policy, Indian diaspora issues. We have four different aspects. One is that policy studies where we do the monitoring bills and issues and events and then come up with the positions. We do the surveys, fact findings, etc. Then we do the advocacy because once we have the policies and strategies, we need to actually make sure that it makes an impact, an influence. So whether it's a uh, Congress or whether it's a administration or whether it is the media, public policies, I think all these three, four dimensions we operate on it. So that's the advocacy segment. One of the marquee program that we have is the annual advocacy summit. Then we also work with a lot of organization, think tanks, institutions, collaborate with them on the various policies, engage with the dialogues. And finally, the capacity building. What we want to see is that Indian American get actively engaged into the policies. We have very few in the Capitol Hill, like Kapil Sharma, who are engaged into that. If you compare with the other population people, and see that how many people from that population are actually engaged into the policies or the politics are Indian American are very few. So we need to engage into the capacity building. So these are the four quadrant we work on it. We do have a lot of appointees in past administration and this administration, but what we saw is that many of these appointees were not really representing a lot of Indian American issues or US India relations because probably when they were engaged in the early in their career, they were not really went through some of these awareness programs that we are doing. So that's where the capacity building, creating the awareness within our own population is also important. And these are the four aspects which we consider as a flywheel that we work on it. So last couple of years, one of the most important program that we host is that Indo-American advocacy on a Capitol Hill. Uh, to a degree that the way we are hosting is that we are from Indian American point of view, we are the largest to coordinate and host, or rather the only one to host the advocacy summit. In this advocacy summit this year, we had 135 Indian American participating from 22 different states. They came as the delegates, met about 100 elected officials from 35 different states. And we raised the issues related to US-India relations, Indo-Pacific, ISET, immigration, even critical minerals. And of course, the hate crimes or the religious phobia. These are the 5 topics we discussed. This is a every meeting, 30 minutes meeting, delegation of 4 or 5 delegates discussing at details in all of this and answering the questions. It's a very high impact programs and well orchestrated the whole day. Uh, and the good thing in this Indo-American Advocacy Day, we saw this year a huge participation of youth, almost 30 youth. And also similarly, we saw that women, young women, and participation overall was very high. So this is very important for their own further participation in the advocacy itself. Now, these are some of the glimpses from the advocacy summit. You can see that it's a delegation meeting elected officials and then discussing, submitting our paper, position papers, and having discussing on the topic. So these are the elected officials all over the USA, and the teams also coming from all over the USA. We also do US-India Partnership Summit. And this summit also is hosted in the US Congress. We had the last year in the US Congress. This year also we had it. We have ambassadors, we have State Department officials, we had other institutions like US India Strategic Partnership Forum or US Chamber of Commerce or we agency. These are the partner organization. We had many elected officials. We have some of the photos we put over here that elected officials like Raja Krishnamurthy, Rav Khanna, Dan Mauser, then Rich McCormick, Thanedar, and many others participated. We also had from administration, Dr. Panchanathan, who is in NSF director. And then in that, we discuss the issues like ISET, Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technology, Framework for India as a major defense partner, India-Pacific trade and security. So those are the various aspects we focused on that. And third, the aspect we do is related to the engagement in administration. For example, we have actively engaged and established a good relationship with the State Department, and particularly for Bureau of Central and South Asia, under which India comes into that. We had under their invitation hosted even the press conference in the State Department itself. And on the issues like, say, whether the students' death or whether it comes to Bangladeshi Hindus or whether it comes to any matters related to India, we do communicate, we express our concerns or our positions into that, and which is well received. We also hosted this year is an immigration summit on Capitol Hill to create the awareness about legal immigration, tech immigration, green card backlog, where hundreds of thousands of Indian are backlogged delayed into getting their green card, and they're stuck into their jobs, and their children, when they grow at the age of 21, they become out of status and they have to convert into the F1. And if the child is not actually in education or disabled or anything, in that case, I have seen the case where a child is disabled, cannot be converted into F1 and is out of status. So it's a situation is very bad into that. So we do raise the issues. We work with Congresswoman Deborah Ross and others. Congresswoman actually presented a bill related to what we call as a documented dreamers for I think 2+ times, and we may need to get it introduced again here and work to get it passed. So these are the issues we work on. With the green card delay is another thing. We also work not only with the Capitol in the Capitol Hill, but also with USCIS. And USCIS, so one good thing is that they take our communication very seriously. Whenever we raise the issues, whether we raise the issues on the H1B getting laid off, or OPT related issues, or the issues related to issuing EAD to those who are delayed. So that is another position we are working on it, and hopefully we can see, if not in this government, next administration, some impact into that. So EAD for the those who are 485 approved, so then they can get EAD, they can change the jobs, and they can be out of this indentured, what we call as the tech slavery. It's akin to that. So that is some of the policies that we are working on it. And we, as a policy, I mentioned that is one of the most important aspect. And as a lead or the chairperson of the policy, Mohan Sonti, I would request him to actually talk about the policy related work that we do.
Yeah, so namaste everyone. So there are quite a few different subjects that we cover, and this is just a small sample of some of the items that we covered in the FIDS. So one is about the hate crimes against the temples and the Hindus in North America. And we went into a research on, we collect all the information on different kinds of attacks that have happened. Like we have seen the attacks on temples, the consulate, even in Canada and in US. And we know about the threats that were given about, pulling down the flights by Khalistanis, and so many other threats and many other things that happen in America that is threatening to the Indians as well as the Indian diaspora. So on this subject, we went through a complete research work, and we had some panel discussions, and we included the community leaders, including the Sikh community and many other, the important ones who are participatory in this. And then we had a complete report, and this report actually came out in the newspaper. You can see in many of the news media. So this brought in new awareness, as well as taking all these collective effort and taking it to the elected officials, the congressmen and others. So we brought this into the awareness on how the Indians and the Indian diaspora feel about it. So that is about the hate crimes. And there's elaborate work that happened on this one. And you can see that in the media too, all of the work that we did. And there were many articles on that. And please go to our website and you'll see more details of that. The remaining three topics, we'll just cover a little more in detail about the atrocities in Bangladesh. We had done an extensive work on that. And the response to the USCIRF on anti-India bias, as well as the Manipur riots, and then Indian student deaths. These are few of the topics that we are covering right now. Due to lack of time. Otherwise, there are several other topics that you can see on the FIDS website. So we'll go to the next slide. So in the response to USCIRF bias. So USCIRF is United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. So they had given a very extensive report, which seems to be completely biased against India, in which this report was submitted by USCIRF organization to the Biden administration to designate India along with China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, and a few other nations to be put under a country of particular concern in the context of religious freedom, which actually the entire report you can see is actually built upon a lot of biased sources. Like, for example, we see that there were a lot of commissions and omissions, and these were fueled by the anti-India campaigns. There are several campaigns and organizations that work against India and Indian diaspora in US, and many of them have contributed to shaping up this narrative for the USCIRF. So, for example, you can see that they had talked about, there are several aspects that they talked about, and we had about 10 panelists, and for all of this research and everything, we have 10 people, and over 10 of them, and a couple of them are doing a full-time with FIDS. So we did an extensive research on this. Just to give you a few examples of the USCIRF report, there were about 8 or 10 different points they mentioned. For example, the CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act. We know that the Citizenship Amendment Act is about giving citizenship to the refugees who were persecuted in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. It doesn't talk anything about removing anyone's citizenship. But the report itself, despite the fact that US also has a lot of similar laws, which are similar to CAA, but the way it was presented to them by many of these organizations that work against us, they had written in the report that somehow they feel this is about removing the citizenship. So there is a lot of miscommunication as well as misreporting here. So we can see that the report itself is biased. So we went over the detailed research, and then further, we presented this to the media. You can see several articles on that. You can see the entire research that many of us have done it together. It's on our website. And then we took these aspects to the elected officials, the congressmen, so they can get the right report, right understanding of what Indians are about. Then the Bangladesh, this is a very important aspect that is ongoing right now. We know that there is an ongoing atrocities and genocide that is happening in Bangladesh, and we know that the percentage of Hindu population has been declining since 1950s. It has gone almost from 22% as currently to 7%. So this violence is currently we have an administration which seems to be a little more favorable to us. But even before that, we have started collecting all the information that led to this kind of a violence and what are the changes and how to help the Bangladeshis. In fact, we again ran a panel in which we invited some Bangladeshis who could actually talk about what is really happening on the ground in Bangladesh. And then we built a whole report on that, and we have sent the appeals to the president as well as the president-elect, President Joe Biden, and President-elect Trump. And again, you can see all of these reports. We have written several articles sent to the congressmen, and you can see the media reports as well that we have sent. Then regarding the Manipur riots, Manipur riots is something that happened last year. And so again, some of us, we had gone down and done a complete research on what is the origins of it and how things have started, what are the participants, what are the warring factions out there, and what are the real truth in what is happening in Manipur. Because again, you could see in, for example, in USCIRF report and many other places, they do talk about the Manipur riot, and all is almost entirely biased. And many of them are based on the surveys that are completely lopsided, and the reports that is provided by many of the anti-Indian community, anti-Indian organizations. So we worked on that again, taking it to the senators, taking it to the congressmen. You can see these reports in the media, and please read about it on our website. Lakshmiji, you would want to go ahead with this, the Indian student death?
Sure. Thank you, Mohanji. Namaste, everyone. I'll be very quick in covering the actions the FIDS took regarding the sudden spike of Indian students' death in USA, approximately around December and beginning of this year, 2024. So we collected and analyzed all the reported deaths in the media of the Indian origin. And based on our analysis, we submitted recommendations to the State Department, Department of Homeland Security, Education Department, universities, state student organizations, investigative agencies like the Department of Justice, FBI, Indo-American communities. We had a Zoom session with the Department of Justice. And also to emphasize on the Open Doors report, we also emphasized that, 2,775,000 students, that is like 25% of the foreign students are from India, and they bring in about $9 billion in terms of fees and expenses. So we gave them how important it is for the Indian diaspora to feel comfortable to send their students to the universities. So we gave all the research and data. And also, we also analyzed those incidents, what exactly happened. And we found that there was a range from suspicion shootings, kidnapping, environmental deaths due to the lack of safety knowledge of the students who are coming from India, like carbon monoxide poisoning, hypothermia, and there were mental issues which was triggering suicide, and even suspicious accidents and violent crimes. So depending on our analysis from the research, what we did, we gave a lot of recommendations to enhance the safety education for the foreign students when they come. The universities were not quite aware of how the situation and the environment is different. So they kind of helped educating the students to take all the safety precautions. And also we gave to improve search and rescue procedures for the universities, because many of those calls were not answered in a timely manner. So many of the lives were affected. The students' death happened because of lack of response in a timely manner. And also implementing stricter rules against fraternity ragging hazing and all of those things, which also caused a lot of mental health issues, which led to many suicides and many other mental health problems for our students. And also increasing awareness of risks and safeties for the foreign students, mainly like the dangers, like what are the no-go zones for them not to go to those potentially danger areas, because many of them assume it is a very well common knowledge, but many times the foreign students are not aware of those facts. And also to provide the mental health support to be provided and improved. The I will not go too much in detail because already it is too much late, but we did gave recommendations to universities, departments, Department of Justice, FBI, and jointly we also used our data to make sure that we debunk all the misinformation and all the emotional hate crimes was happening, or any kind of those kind of messages and false narratives were going around. So we were able to provide the data to control those information of misinformation too. So FIDS was very instrumental in providing the accurate data through our research and analysis. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad Lakshmiji. And next, Prasadji, would you like to go ahead and talk
So
about the students and
certificate program.
I'm not able to hear you, Prasadji.
So Himanji will talk about it.
Sure, I'll go ahead and talk about the Civic Engagement Certification Program. So on the screen, you can already see this program, why we initiated to cultivate interests and skills in the Indian American students about US policies, India-US policies, and the overall leadership program. So this year, it was the 5th year of Civic Engagement and Leadership Program, year 2024, wherein we had around 45 students who enrolled for the program from across 12 states. We saw maximum participation from Arizona, California, followed by Texas and other states. We also on the screen, you can also see that it was a 10-week long program, wherein in the first week, we did the orientation for the students to let them know as to how the overall structure of the program will be. And the second week to 8th week was dedicated for the education, wherein we covered various topics such as American politics, US lawmaking process, civic engagement, US elections, public policies, policy issues, and many more. So basically, the overall program was structured in a way that the students get to learn about the topic. Uh, and along with it, we also made it pretty much interactive. So we had one of our mentors joining us and delivering sessions on the topics, on the various topics presented on the screen. And after that, we had our guest speakers joining us and interacting with the students. We also made sure that for the civic engagement session, we had, a few of our congressional interns who joined us and kind of interacted with our kids. So we made it pretty much interactive for the entire public who attended kind of the program. Also, you can see that we had various guest speakers who joined us, like Ramesh Rao, Jai Kansara, Harita Vadri, Nissim Ruben, Neeraj Antani. He is the state Senate of Ohio. So we had such esteemed guests who joined us and interacted with the kids. They shared their knowledge and insights on the various topics that they were associated with as part of that particular day. So this was all about the program, and we also received very great response from all the kids. They said that they really liked the overall learning experience that we brought them for the entire 10-week long program. And in the last week, we did the culmination ceremony, wherein we distributed certificates and concluded the program. Yes, thank you so much, and over to Khandiravji.
Yeah, Himangi, thank you for that. So Himangi covered all the internship program for high school students, and I'm talking about this.
Prasaji, we are not able to hear that clearly.
Oh,
I think whatever it is, I think you please continue.
Just go ahead. Yeah.
okay, yeah. I'm not sure what happened.
Uh, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now it's clear.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I don't. So, Himangeji talk about internship program, which was intended for high school students. We also have this internship congressional program, congressional internship program. It is meant for grad and undergrad students. So again, we want to, of course, develop our future leaders, and they should be getting experience in actual administration. Uh, and to understand how things goes in the administration and increase their knowledge and experience, and that way they really work as a staff member in the congressional office, and they become part of that one. So hope you can understand what is the importance. So like we this year we had four we were able to place four people. 12 people applied, but got selected with five only. It's very tough to get the placement. But with the help of influencers and others, we could able to do that. So last year it was the first time we could able to do that. So you can see that Sami Kumar from California, Janani from Philadelphia, Rachel from Arizona, and Shrija from uh, uh, MA. So they were able to join it. From field side, we definitely need your support uh, because when these interns go, they have to stay in DC. They have to go to the offices. So we need to cover some part of their expenses because they have to stay, accommodation and everything. So we need some funds for that. And also, we need your support as an influencer. If you know any congressman, and you can talk to them and place our interns from Indian diaspora. So that will be very helpful. So that's all. Back to you, Mohanji.
Yeah.
Yes, so I
Yeah.
think
So,
we invite
Kandadaji, you want to say?
Maru,
You want to?
Maru Telgalavadi, who is our first batch intern. He subsequently was our research analyst. Also, he led the internship program for 1 year. Then last couple of years, he's a one is political science undergrad from UC Davis, and now he became staffer in Capital. It's a very successful journey. So I would like to invite him to share his experience in few. Uh, yeah, please go
Of
ahead.
course. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Of course. Well, namaste, everyone. My name is Madhut Srinivasa. I'm from California. I'm a UC Davis graduate, and I currently reside here on Capitol Hill, where I'm finishing up my internship with a member of the California congressional delegation. And most importantly, I was a former intern myself, research intern with the Foundation for Indian Diaspora Studies, and it was an amazing experience to say the least. During my time as an intern, I interned from November 2020 to about June 2022, where I finished up like end of high school to beginning of my academic career in college in a four-year university. And during that time, the experience has really honed my skills and issues related to legislative research, policy analysis, and in general, understand help me understand not only the legislative process but also the Indo-U.S. foreign relations and issues that affect the Indian American diaspora here in the United States. So during my time, specifically at as a FIDS intern, a research intern, I primarily researched hundreds of congressional bills and resolutions from specific congressional sessions, analyzing the relationship between the United States and India in the context of those bills related to issues such as defense, trade, and also even cultural ties. Additionally, I've attended many advocacy days with FIDS where I advocated on behalf of improving Indo-U.S. defense and cultural relations in D.C. to not only members of Congress but their chiefs of staff. And primarily, as an intern mentor in the summer cohorts over in 2022 and 2023. I directly managed and mentored many interns who were interested and wanted to kind of hone their skills and get a foray into public policy issues, especially related to Indo US relations and issues affecting the Indian American diaspora studies, whether it's immigration, whether it's public safety, whether it's education access, etc. So, to say the least, in my experience, the internship with FIDS has been absolutely phenomenal. It got me interested in the first place into public policy, and that's why I decided to study political science and philosophy with a pre-law emphasis at UC Davis. And through that experience, I began an internship on my separately with a member of Congress representing my district, California Representative Josh Harder in the California 9th District. And now with that experience, I've been able to, really hone my skills and develop a skill set into issues related to public policy. And not only that, also the management of political administration and things like that. So the FIDS internship has been amazing. And frankly, my favorite part of that internship was mentoring those high school students, being able to, tap into what their interests are, and making sure that they have the skills they need to kind of develop that interest and further their experience in public policy. So that was my experience, and I'm glad to have said all that. Well, Kanadaji, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, Dhanyavad Maruji. Kandaraj, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I think we are at the tail end. I will just cover the last aspect of our this year's highlight is that this year has been election year. And so how did FITS as a not-for-profit or think tank organization operated into that? In last election and this year election also, we realized and focused that Indo-American influence can only be there when we have the political activism, and over there are two most important aspects are there. One is votes and another is notes. Of course, FIDS doesn't do the fundraiser into the political. Some of us does get engaged into that, but many times Indian American actually does do the fundraising, but they're not really pushing our agendas or the policies and etc. So even educating those who do the fundraiser is also important aspect of that we do. But this year we did few important aspects. First thing that we launched Indo-American voters registration campaign with maximizing number of voters, because many of Indian American, even though they are citizens, they don't even register. So that's the first thing that we launched. And we also promoted that within organizations of Indian origin. So almost we communicated to around 800 to 1,000 organizations to take it further in their own settings and their own way. Many other organizations orchestrated similar campaigns in that million voters campaign, and hopefully we reach to that level. The second campaign we did is about the actual voting. So it is very important to get out and vote. So these are the two campaigns. Of course, we ran it through other organizations. We host one website called Indo-American-Election-Guide.org, where we put all the analysis of bills supported or the voted by different elected members. And you can enter your address and etc. And you can get the entire details that what the voting pattern has been, etc. And then you can decide yourself. FIDS mostly educate about the issues. We ourselves don't advocate any candidate, but we do create awareness about what their stand has been about US-India relations or Indian diaspora related policies of the policy matters related to us, so that people can be educated and they can decide accordingly. So these are the important aspect that we did. We need to do more at various level, not just at the national level, but also at the state levels and at the local level. So we'll keep on doing this. Activity requires a lot of infrastructure, research, and then education aspect of it. Now I'll come to directly to the last part that 2025 we will continue a lot of these activities. We also host conferences in Washington DC. That also we need to budget for 2025. So some of the aspect that I'm putting over there, that policy, license, we do the advocacy summit, we do the policy engagement, internship program requires funds, we do the surveys, policy paper publication, etc., election workshops, advocacy event where we this year 135 delegates participated in Washington DC, hosting that event, hosting events related to the anti-terror, Indo-Pacific, US-India, immigration. We plan to take US-India delegation, hopefully in 2025, newly elected elected House of Representatives. So we'll work on that. The publications, we also have office space, and most importantly, we have policy staff. Today, she couldn't join. There was Shri Khadke. And we have now our office physical presence in Washington, D.C. It's a good location, prestigious building. It's a shared office, so we have it. So we are slowly moving towards the institutionalizing this the work. We have the Mohan mentioned about the policies. We have 10 policy analysts. Most of them are actually part-time fellows who participate in all this research and work. And as I mentioned, that for outreach, we have 135. They actually came to Washington, D.C., but the actual number is more than few hundred all over the USA who engage into taking the message to their elected officials and local awareness. What we are looking at is that this year different donation levels, 250, 500, 1,000, 2,500, the patterns. And if you want to sponsor delegates taking care of their in Washington DC, if it their staying arrangement, food, transportation, and also splitting the cost of the whole event, then it would come about 250 per delegate for the summit, whether it's an immigration summit or whether it is a. It's not that we are giving them this money. It's just that they are coming. Most of the people, they come with their own tickets. So it's just other expenses and overhead putting together. And then sponsoring congressional intern. So it's about 5,000 per intern. Then sponsoring Capitol Hill Summit, the event that we host is about lower end, we get 10K, and larger events, we get 25K. Larger event like a advocacy summit is a total 25. So this is our total, this one. It's a, we can donate via Zelle, donate to feeds@gmail.com or PayPal or credit cards. I would like to invite Yogi Chuk, who is our director of policies and liaison, and to sum up with what Feeds year has been and what we look forward in 2025 and why this should be supported. Over to Yogi. Yogi, are you able to unmute yourself?
Banerjee, I'm in a very bad pocket here on 680. I just, somebody almost hit me. So.
Oh, no problem. I think you take care of yourself. I think I'll probably some other time, but I think essentially we have presented the whole the work of this year. We every year we add the different dimensions to that. Next year, we would also be some of the conferences and some of the reports, particularly anti-terrorism and the Bangladeshi issue is also continuing. So that also will have some specific programs in Washington, D.C. Advocacy Summit, internship programs, immigration summit will continue. We work with think tanks next year. More activity will be around that. But most importantly, there is a shift in the government. Now, Republican led by President Trump is there, though there are many, as we discussed earlier, right? There are some positive policies are going to be there, and there are policies where we would need to work together in creating awareness and influence. And so that is the main focus is going to be there in next year. So there are many areas we had listed. Immigration is one of the top area that we are concerned about. We may be able to work on awareness about some of the facts related to India, on particularly the pluralism, religious tolerance, religious freedom in India, or democratic principles, India being the largest democracy. So all these things we may need to work creating that awareness. All this would require efforts, all of us, also finding out like-minded people who can participate, engaged, and volunteer. We would need some experts who can participate in the meticulous or methodical studies. And of course, all this work would require funds. Specifically, we want to transition this into a established institution. Though it is a small, but we have to continue, and the work is much more larger. So just I think these are the broader thing that I wanted to present as a summary of this year, plans for next year, and then the appeal for you to reach out to the people who can support this activity, whether participating to take this message in the local engagement or participate in the studies, or the funds itself. So these are the three ways one can participate in that. Thank you. Mohanji, back to you.
Yeah, Dhanyawad Khanderao. So as you see, I mean, given the limited amount of time, we could only present some aspects of it. Please visit our website and you can see the extent amount of the work that is done by FIDS, the scope of it, the breadth of it, as well as the kind of influence we make. So please look at that site, and if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. So with this, we'll end the session.
So I think those people who are interested will send it the information about the actual donation, etc. It is a 501(c)(3), it's a tax exempt thing. Spread the word. And again, back to Kapil Sharma. Thanks a lot for your participation and the guidance. You've been there representing our Indian American interest for the decades, and your experience and knowledge definitely would be helpful for us to take our mission forward. How do we take the messaging? How do we engage the elected officials? How do we engage with the think tanks? So thanks for this is your second participation in our forum, and both of them have been marvelous. With this, I would thank everybody for your participations, and we'll publish our report, take it forward to the larger number of audience into that. So Ram Gupta ji will certainly send your communication, and hopefully it will be.
I'm first time I have been introduced by Lakshmi, and you do